Good Erev Shabbos. It's Erev Parshat Vayigash. It's Asara B'Teves. Very exciting week we just had, in which last night was capped off by this amazing fundraising campaign by the Fairlawn community, trying to renovate and build and invest in the mikvah association and the mikvah infrastructure of Fairlawn. Yashikov to everyone for all of their efforts. And last night was such a exciting event, Achdus event of all the shuls and the entire Fairlawn community to be a part of together. Shifting gears, so it's now a fast day. It's Asara B'Tevet. It's very interesting that we have a fast day on a Friday. Typically, we don't have fast on Friday. Asara B'Tevet is actually the only one that we observe on a Friday. And there's an interesting Avud Raham, and Avud Raham says that it can't happen based on today's calendar, but before the calendar was set, Asara B'Tevet is actually the only fast that if it would fall out on Shabbos, we would observe Asara B'Tevet even on Shabbos. You know that Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos, the Tisha B'Av we would push off. So how could it be that Asara B'Tevet, which we're marking the beginning of the siege around the walls of Yerushalayim, it's really the start of the whole process of the Chorban, we would push off the Kavod and Oneg Shabbos if Asara B'Tevet would fall out on Shabbos. Again, today it can't happen based on the fixed calendar, but it could happen historically. Whereas a Tisha B'Av, we would not push off a Kavod Oneg Shabbos for Tisha B'Av. Shabbos would be we would push off Tisha B'Av to the following day. And even tonight we're going to go into Kabbalah Shabbos. People are going to be hungry, their stomachs are going to be grumbling, and the Kavod Oneg Shabbos is going to be a little bit lacking for davening tonight till we get home and make Kiddush. So how can that be? Why does Asara B'Tevet have the power to really push off even Shabbos? So first of all, it's based on a pasuk that says Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh in the connection to Asara B'Tevet that the poskim see as an example that tells us that Asara B'Tevet is supposed to be on the day it falls out. We're not supposed to push it off, which we don't have that phraseology by Tisha B'Av. But on a hashkafic level, how do we understand it? So there are two ideas I saw in the poskim. One is by Rav Yonasat Eibeshitz, Yaris Dvash. And Rav Yonasat Eibeshitz says that the explanation is that kol atchalot kashot, the beginning of a negative experience is always going to be very difficult. That's what the Rav Yonasat Eibeshitz says. And therefore, Asara B'Tevet marks the beginning of the process of the galus, of the destruction of Yerushalayim and the Beis Hamikdash. It's when the walls were just sieged. And Tisha B'Av, which is the end, so there's something unique about the beginning of a galus. The Chassam Sofer says something similar, related, but I think it adds another layer, which is very relevant, meaningful today. Chassam Sofer says that more than just being a beginnings being difficult, he adds that often by the end of a tsar, by the end of a process, the Yeshua, the salvation has already been sown. The seeds have already been sown. We know that there's a chazal that say that on Tisha B'Av, the Mashiach is going to be born. That's why Tisha B'Av is called a Moed. It's why we don't say Tachon on Tisha B'Av, because there's a element of relief. That relief is on its way on Tisha B'Av. But Asara B'Tevet, that's the beginning. In the beginning, you don't have that relief. You don't know how long this is going to be. You don't know where the salvation is going to come from, and therefore there's an element of more pain, more immense pain. And that's why in some ways Asara B'Tevet is a more difficult day in the Jewish calendar than a Tisha B'Av. And that's why we observe it even on an Erev Shabbos, and even historically could even fall out on a Shabbos halachically. I thought this idea of the Chassam Sofer really speaks to where we're at now as a nation, as a world, dealing with a pandemic. That we are hopefully, when we take a step back and look at this idea in terms of being through a tsar and the difference between the beginning of a tsar and the end of a tsar. So hopefully, with the release of the vaccine, that's also the real excitement. Like another real excitement that happened this week, in addition to the excitement of the Fairlawn Mikvah campaign. So the release of the vaccine, which hopefully we see the Yeshua around the corner, I think also speaks to where we're at as in this journey through the pandemic. We feel a sense of hopefully the light. There's some light at the end of the tunnel, and the Yeshua is around the corner. So we should be zocha that as we mark this Asara Tevet on a Friday, and we feel that in terms of the galus, we recognize that we're still at the beginning of a process. We can look at our own COVID experience and hopefully feel some relief, knowing that that we're at a point in this process where hopefully we're just around the corner to being able to resume a sense of normalcy and be back together. And we should all be zocha to have all these days of galus turned into days of me'afela la'ora, yeshiva l'geula. These days should become days of Yimei Sasan and Simcha, and we should be able to celebrate together with each other. Meher v'meinu v'karav. Amen.